Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So if you've been keeping updated with what a lot of the pundits are saying in the media, they are saying that Kamala Harris is the new favorite in this election, despite the fact that she's not really even polling that well nationally and in enough swing states to guarantee her as the favorite. She's down and losing ground in the betting odds and a lot of other forecasts, but still, that's besides the point. You always follow the money. You always follow where these individuals are spending time, where they're campaigning. And while it's true that yesterday Kamala Harris was in Michigan and Pennsylvania doing these more intimate events for Labor Day, she apparently is taking time out of her busy schedule to travel to the state of New Hampshire, which is kind of bizarre. Why is she campaigning in New Hampshire? You could say, well, maybe it's for down-ballot races, but in reality, there's no competitive House races in New Hampshire, especially if Democrats are poised to be in a good position nationwide. The governor's primary is not even up yet. It's not like Harris is exactly wasting time and energy on that, and that wouldn't even really be a smart play to do anyways, but that's not the point. It's not like Trump going up to Montana, because that actually made sense because he wanted to help Tim Sheehy, who looks poised to be the next senator out of the state of Montana. But why exactly is Kamala Harris going to these blue states? Why is she sending her husband to do an event in Virginia? Why is Tim Walz doing campaign stops in Minnesota? Because there's a very good chance that this election is not exactly matching up with the internal data of the Harris campaign, which they have gone far and beyond and found thousands upon thousands of voters in their internals. There's a lot more people in their internals than are in national polling, and they are showing this to be a very, very different race. And while I do believe that Harris is probably going to win all three of those states, and while I think that it's the main focus of Donald Trump to focus on the big 7 swing states that are going to dictate the election, I think that let's say Virginia does go to Donald Trump, he's probably already got North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Georgia at that point, which would guarantee him 270 electoral votes and the White House for the next 4 years. I'm not saying that don't have a campaign there. I'm just saying let your campaign on the ground there do the work. You don't need to be making campaign stops in Virginia or New Hampshire. Maybe you go by the North Carolina-Virginia border. Maybe you go by the Wisconsin-Minnesota border. But those states, like New Hampshire, 4 electoral votes is probably not going to help you out a whole lot. And it's not all that winnable of a state now, especially because of how so much of the Boston area has sprawled over into New Hampshire over the past 10 years. You're not even dealing with the 2016 electorate, which it took 8-9% third-party vote share for Donald Trump to take New Hampshire. I don't think you're going to see that at this stage in the game, but it could get closer, and that might be why Kamala Harris is going to the state of New Hampshire. And you look at this, and it's I think that Donald Trump, obviously, it's a tough haul in these states. He got 45% of the vote. He fell short by 7.3 in 2020 in New Hampshire, over 10 in Virginia, and in the state of Minnesota, it was 7.1. I think all three get closer, maybe even significantly closer, but is it going to be enough at this stage in the game? I'm not sure I can say it is, but the fact that she's there to begin with is confusing, and maybe it proves that, Donald Trump is in a better position than some people think, and that's not what the public polling is showing. And Mark Halperin, who is not really exactly the biggest fan of Donald Trump, and he also basically called verbatim the Joe Biden dropout. I didn't even believe him at the time, but he got so much of it accurate. I think the one exception was the fact that he said that there would be no Biden endorsement of Harris and that they would leave it open to be an open convention. And that might have been the plan to begin with from some of the party leadership, but I think Biden pushed for Kamala just despite the people that were trying to push him out. And that's what they did. They're like, okay, I'm out. You beat me. You're stuck with Kamala. And now they're stuck with Kamala. and they're basically possibly in for a tough haul, because according to Mark Halperin, we could play this clip right here, but everything he says could very well be accurate, because Kamala Harris is not getting a convention bump. That usually never happens when you actually have a real convention. And it's true that a lot of convention bumps, they're temporary, they're response bias, but she already was kind of suffering from that, which is the real issue for her campaign, because it proves that a lot of her sugar high bump may not have been fully in line with the real electorate. But we'll play this right here.
Already there's more coming, and there's some private polling that suggests that nationally in the battleground states, she's not ahead. She might be ahead on paper, but well within the margin of error. And there's some battleground states now where I think Donald Trump's on this trajectory is going to be ahead. And it may be, regardless of what happens in the interview and regardless what happens in the debate, it may be that by the middle of September, when things have calmed down, when the Trump campaign have had time to prey on some of the weaknesses that I suggested, that he's ahead in all the Sun Belt states and ahead in Pennsylvania and competitive in Michigan and Wisconsin, which would be roughly where Joe Biden was before the debate, with a single path to 270 electoral votes, the 3 Great Lakes states and Nebraska too. And that'd be a scary position for the Democratic Party to be in from mid-September through Election Day.
And that's true, because if you're talking about the fact that, oh, well, we got to get rid of Biden because he can't win, and then you're in that situation where you're losing Pennsylvania in the polls, and you have a competitive Wisconsin in the polls, which means Donald Trump is probably going to run away with Wisconsin, and you have Michigan as close, which again, polls both cycles have underestimated Donald Trump in the state of Michigan. But even if she did get Michigan and Wisconsin in that scenario for whatever reason, she would not be able to win the election if Donald Trump gets Pennsylvania and obviously Georgia, North Carolina, but especially if he got Arizona and Nevada. Pennsylvania is a must-win state for them, and we don't even know what the data is. The one thing that we have heard is that the Des Moines Register poll, which is like the gold standard, one of the best polls in the country, a very comprehensive methodology that's been accurate, they're sitting on a poll out of Iowa that has Donald Trump up by close to 20 points. Maybe they don't want to release the poll because they're afraid of backlash, or maybe they themselves don't even believe the data or whatever, but the same pollster did have Biden down by like 17 points back in June. So it's not all that surprising, because if Donald Trump wins Iowa by that much, he's going to win Wisconsin. And obviously it's not a 1-to-1, because you have the state of Wisconsin, you do have like a big suburban areas technically in Milwaukee, but they're also more Republican, but you do have like an urban core in Milwaukee. Madison is a lot more, populated than a place like Iowa City, which is the similarly liberal bastion in Iowa. So of course, Wisconsin's not going to vote Republican, or it's not going to move right by the same amount as Iowa is in that poll, assuming the poll does hold up as the gold standard, which it's been dead on accurate in the past. But in terms of the state of Wisconsin, yeah, Trump is probably going to win it by a few points, which means he probably also wins Michigan and Pennsylvania, because it's a gradient of sorts. It truly is. And that's not good news for the Democrats, because it proves that, a lot of the current polling is just filled with a lot of this response bias, and it's starting to die down, so you're not even seeing this convention bump. She's at her peak. It's like at 48%. That's not good enough to win the election, assuming that Donald Trump is able to galvanize a lot of these undecideds. He could lose the popular vote by 3 and still win. So the fact that she's up by 1 to 2 post-convention, that's not good enough. And in terms of what we keep seeing, Donald Trump in Michigan, the second straight poll in Michigan, which I had going blue in my latest prediction, shows Donald Trump leading by 1, and they even polled including RFK Jr. And I know he's going to be on the ballot, but still, it's like, he's not going to get 5%, but this poll doesn't even have any undecideds allocated, so like the undecideds are like parked at RFK Jr. For one reason or another. But, this is a pollster that has been a common underestimator of Donald Trump both cycles, just like the Detroit Free Press. Now you get back-to-back polls out of Michigan from polls that have not been the fondest of Donald Trump, and they're showcasing the same exact result. What does that tell me? It tells me that Donald Trump might be in a better position, especially now as things stand today. You see it in Michigan. We pulled Pennsylvania ourselves. We pulled North Carolina ourselves. After the convention, Donald Trump is gaining a couple of points in both of those states, which is, absolutely crucial if he wants to win this election. If he gets Pennsylvania, North Carolina, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult for Kamala Harris to go out there and win the election. And now Kamala Harris is apparently spending a lot of money, and we could look at this. We can go down here on these down ballot races. Democrats say she's running to build a governing majority. I don't know if that's really necessary, because you look at the DCCC, DSCC, they already are outspending Republicans by quite a bit. But now they're transferring money from the Harris campaign to fund them. What exactly is going on here? If they're really ahead and winning, why would you have to do such an unprecedented thing, make an unprecedented transfer? It's unlikely that she's running to build a governing majority. Maybe they want to give more money to Tester in hopes that they could, retain the Senate. But it's evident at this point it's going to be extraordinarily difficult for that to happen. So already you see what this is. What is the Kamala Harris campaign? I said it from the beginning. And maybe it will be successful for them. We have a long way to go. But I said this is a Democrat Party turnout supercharger, more so than a serious campaign and a serious candidate that is playing to win. And every single thing they're doing matches up with that. From the far left VP pick to the bizarre campaign stops to what they're doing with money to hiding from the media to giving an interview that was very subpar despite them having everything going in their way, to ducking and dodging debates with Donald Trump, only doing one debate on the most favorable network. They're just trying to go out there and supercharge turnout so the Democrats down ballot can kind of do somewhat well. And then they hope maybe, just maybe, she can cross the finish line, because they know that the current narrative we see in the polling, they know that it's likely not holding up. It's not holding up with their internals, which are more comprehensive, have more data than you could imagine. It's not holding up with a lot of different things. And they know it. But so many other people in the media, they don't know it. So many conservatives are dooming unnecessarily instead of actually putting the work in and actually finding ballots in swing states and chasing ballots in swing states, which is what they should do if they're genuinely concerned. They should be making sure that Donald Trump wins, and we're leaving it all on the field, leaving no stone unturned, you name it. So regardless of what happens, at least we did everything we could do. We got 80 plus million votes, you name it. But either way, I don't see so much of that from a lot of people, and I would like to see more of that mindset from the people that are a little concerned or whatever. But no, there's definitely something up with this, because they're not acting like a campaign that's winning. They're not run competently. You have Kamala Harris going out there saying Donald Trump is disrespecting the Gold Star families of the Afghanistan withdrawal. Yeah, how's that going to work out? And then every single one of them just destroys them on social media. Donald Trump tweets them all out. He does like a 10 times ratio of 10 tweets on the same tweet. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. But no, these people are delusional. And Mark Halperin, he was right about a lot of things. Could he be right about this? I mean, yeah. Do I think Democrats are going to lose those 3 states? No. Are they still going to campaign in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania? Absolutely. But I will say that, yes, it is a little bit strange how they've been behaving lately, and it's not like a campaign that's got unlimited momentum that's poised for victory. It's just not. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.